Let's bring in now, though, our panel of regular pundits and former political advisors. Partner at Principal Advisory and former Labor advisor Ryan Liddell is back with us. Welcome, Ryan. And Executive Director at the Australia Institute, just for a little while anyway. Former Greens advisor Ben Oakwest is here. Welcome back to you too. Ben, Ryan, why don't we start with you? The climate legislation has gone through pretty smoothly in the House. What do you interpret in the dealings with the Teals and the Greens, Ryan Liddell? What's the Prime Minister managed to do by bringing them into the tent, even though he didn't need their numbers?
Well, firstly, this shouldn't be a remarkable moment, but the reality is it actually is. And, this is a real sort of watershed moment, and I know from internally in the government there are a lot of people who were there in 2009 when Kevin Rudd's CPRS was knocked over in the Senate, and again in 2014 when Tony Abbott put the bullet in the ETS. And so there was a lot of pride within the Labor government that we're able to sort of broker a deal and get this legislation through the House of Reps. I think if you take a step back and look at, the interactions between Chris Bowen in particular and the Greens and the Teals, there wasn't a whole lot that was given, but the fact that he sat down and was willing to sort of listen and get that legislation through really sort of sets a precedent and sends a signal to the business community as well that the policy direction is clear, investment will start to flow. And the Liberals have really been sidelined here. It's not so much, the business community was furious at the Liberals before the election in relation to their lack of energy policy, and now they're not just furious. They sort of see them as a bit of a laughing stock. But now that the legislation is through, through the lower house, and soon, not too far away through the Senate, I think the challenge for the government is to sort of be prepared for, what the Liberals are kind of starting to set up here. Right. I think there's a reason why Peter Dutton, wants to implored his party to vote against the legislation. This isn't, a business as usual a policy by any stretch of the imagination. The last sort of 10, 15 years of climate change policy sort of shows that. They'll be gearing up for all sorts of scare campaigns in relation to electricity prices, etc. So, sure. It's important the government is on its toes and has campaigns, etc., ready to go.
Well, it looks and sounds like smooth sailing from here, Ben Oakwest, because of the agreement with the Greens, and let's go ahead and assume David Pocock stays where he is too. Will it be, though, do you see any risk of this relationship or the deal falling apart? The reason I ask is, they're taking pot shots, the Greens, at Paul Keating. Richard Marles this morning, Ben, when asked how much was given to the Greens in substance, he said none, no concessions. How fragile is this deal?
Well, I think the thing to realise big picture is that climate debate's not over because one piece of legislation passes. The climate discussion, debate, legislation is not just with us for this parliament, but it's with us for the rest of our lives as the planet grapples with how to tackle the dangerous climate change that's already in the system and how to decarbonise our economy faster. So this legislation has passed. Now, I think it is significant. Ryan's right. It's a big victory for not just the Prime Minister, but Chris Bowen and his adroit negotiations. But he set this up well before the election too, and handled the issue very well in opposition that allowed Labor to prosecute a climate agenda successfully through the campaign. As did the Greens. But I think it was a real win-win-win-win outcome. A win for the Prime Minister, a win for Chris Bowen, a win for the Teals, the independents who were seen to have a win and be part of the debate and have helped drive the change, and a win for Adam Bandt. I think he had a blinder as well.
Did he really, though, Ben? Because I know when pressed, he said it was a consensus discussion or consensus agreement inside this very large Greens party room, clearly not unanimous. I just wondered in some of his public statements whether he was a man, not battling to hold the show together, but having to unite some disparate forces within the Greens.
Look, I think politicians, successful ones, are always uniting disparate forces. That's what any successful politician does. Not everybody thinks the same way. So I'm sure there's some of that, but I think it's been very well received how he played it. Bigger picture, I think he's probably helped reshape the debate about climate change. It's much more now focused on how to get out of oil and gas and coal and how to end the expansion of it. So he has really reshaped the debate. But there are a lot more discussions to come. There's a big transport summit coming up in Parliament House on August the 19th about how to get in place fuel efficiency standards and get electrification of cars. There'll be a debate over the 2035 target soon. There was the debate about the climate trigger. There's the safeguards mechanism. So there's a lot more debates to come. So you're right to say what's coming next, how fragile is this consensus, because there's going to be, in some ways, a lot more and tougher debates to come. But let's not take away from the fact that this was an important moment in the Australian climate debate that allowed all sides to play their role. And I think that's what Bowen and the Prime Minister have done successfully, is play to a broader community than just those who voted Labor. Those who voted Green and Teals are part of this decision, and that allows the Prime Minister to govern for a larger majority than just who voted for him, and I think that sets him up well in the long term. And then on the other hand, Adam Bandt has successfully helped reflame the climate debate on terms that he wants, pushing for this moratorium on coal and gas expansion.
Yeah, now I do want to just bring some breaking news in just a moment on the Biloela family, which is coming to us now. But just to round off this discussion so we don't jump all over the shop, Ryan, on Ben's last point there, Anthony Albanese, as the relationship builder and manager that he used to be in the House, did you see him trying to put down markers and take out insurance in the way that he actually brought Teals in who weren't, strictly necessary to his cause here on climate?
I think one of Anthony's greatest strengths, as we saw particularly in the last Parliament, as the leader of the House, and we're starting to see now as Prime Minister, is his ability to build consensus across on the parliamentary floor. We found that, I found that certainly when I was working in opposition with Bill, and we saw that when we were in government last time too. So I suspect that's exactly what we're drawing on Anthony's strengths there. Right. Is a really positive thing.
All right, now midway through our discussion, we've just had a tweet coming through from the Home to Billo hashtag group announcing that they understand the Biloela family have been granted permanent visas, and I think we can probably take that as official coming from that particular source. So this is completely without notice to both of you, but of course you'd be well familiar with the history of it. Ryan Liddell, that's the final chapter, isn't it?
Oh, hopefully. What a fantastic outcome. This family's been through so much, and credit to the community up there. They've run an excellent campaign targeting a whole range of politicians across the political spectrum. What a fantastic outcome.
Yeah, it does seem that it's official. Our team are confirming it anyway. Ben, any reflections, observations?
Oh, in the end, look how easy it was to do. And it just makes you shake your head at how the previous government handled the situation, and just, lives torn up and destroyed, and just makes you think, though, of all the other asylum seekers and refugees who have been in similar positions, and some who still are. But congratulations to the new government, who's taken the politics out of it and delivered a outcome, as Ryan said, that the local community really wanted. But it didn't have to be this hard. And I guess you change a government, you change the country. And a local community and a local family are all the better for it.
Yeah, that's showing up in lots of ways, isn't it? In what are we saying about the first 10 weeks of the Albanese government? Look, he's taking some leave. He's let the country know today, Ryan Liddell. Prime Minister's going to remain within Australia but take a week's leave. Now, there was a little bit of begrudging criticism of some of his official travel overseas early on. You wouldn't expect any pot shots, would you, around Prime Minister taking some leave?
He's gone straight from a pretty hardcore election campaign, which is just relentless, straight into governing as a Prime Minister, then straight, on Monday or Tuesday to the Quad over in Japan, a relentless international travel schedule, then into Parliament. Give the bloke a week off. Yeah. That's all he's asking for. get refreshed, and then back in the saddle. So, you know, I don't know about you, Greg, but I kind of want the person in the top job, having a break every now and then.
I think
maybe jumping on the plane to Hawaii, when the country's on fire isn't the smartest thing to do, as the previous Prime Minister sort of learnt the hard way. But, have a break. I think he deserves it.
It's probably healthy for all of us not to work ourselves into the ground. Look, another issue we're just not going to have time to get to, but I'll very briefly run it past you, Ben Oakwist, because you're a bit of a campaigner from way back. Just at the sort of peripheral level of the Voice to Parliament, the campaign that's going to have to be mounted. We could talk for hours on it, but we won't. Just how, I don't know, guarded are you about the possibility of the No campaign running this down?
Oh, well, it is a worry. This is going to be, I think, the most important and defining feature of this term of Parliament, whether this voice gets up and how the campaign is handled. The Australia Institute had some polling out on the weekend showing support had grown to 65% of the community, including 58% of Liberal voters. But this is not just a once-in-a-generation opportunity, but a once-in-a-100-year opportunity, and the Indigenous community has largely reached a difficult consensus, but really, not everybody, but really most, in a very generous, most of the Indigenous community, after hard work by the likes of Pat Anderson and Arnie Pat and Megan. But this would be just almost incomprehensibly disastrous if it now doesn't get up. That's a huge responsibility on the opposition, that this is a chance to go forward after a very generous offer from the Indigenous community. But on the other hand, if it didn't get up and it set relationships and this agenda backwards, it's almost incomprehensible, and it's hugely important and a big responsibility on the opposition, but on everybody, on the business community and the community, to really normalise the idea of what is actually a very modest but really important proposal for the whole future of this country. As I said, not just in generational terms, but in multi-generational terms, and it's the big issue of this Parliament in my mind.
Yeah, there are certainly a lot of people on the Yes campaign at least awake and alert to the possibility that they're going to have to run those arguments down as they arise. Look, we'll talk to you about that further, Ryan Liddell, I'm sure, and Ben, get you back again before too long. Thanks to both of you for joining us once again today. Talk soon.
Thanks, Greg. Looking forward to the ABC birthday tonight too.
Enjoy, yes, who isn't? Good luck. See you then.